living. They got bigger problems to worry about. If I was a cryptid, I would hang out with the homeless. I actually should look into that. Are cryptids feeding on the homeless, or just blending in with them? Interesting. Okay, but before we get into that story I just came up with, let's go ahead and move on to our next story. So this was the original request I got from Ramsey via email. He said, Jason, you gotta look into this guy. He's an inventor, and you gotta look at this invention. And I started looking around his site, and the first thing that popped up that I saw was the Yawn Machine. I was like, I want to cover him, but I'm going to break it up into two, because the Yawn Machine, that was the last episode of Season 3. I love that episode. And the one that Ramsey specifically wanted me to cover was the food replicator. So I've always kept it on the docket. And now it's time. It is time to tell you about an invention that will change your life. It changed his. Definitely changed his. So, brief overview of Paul Allen. He's a man. He's probably like in his late 60s. Actually, he may not be around anymore from the look of his blog. But at this time, he looked to be in about his late 60s, maybe. It's really hard to pin down his age. Just a couple photos of him. He invented the Yawn Machine. You are the Yawn Machine. By yawning, you can relieve your stress. I recommend listening to that episode. He also invented something, and I curse God and I curse the world that I live in that this link is not working. I'm looking at his website of all of his inventions, and one of them is called Paul's Squirrel Academy. And then you just click on it and it goes to a 404 page somewhere. And I was like, no! Like, why was I born onto a planet where I don't have access to what Paul's Squirrel Academy is? I can only imagine the insanity that used to be behind that link. But it is no more. We will not put that phrase belongs on the conspiracy iceberg. If anything that I've covered belongs on there, that does. Paul's Squirrel Academy. What does it mean? Is it a literal academy? Are there squirrels walking around with little top hats? Or what are those little graduation caps? Is it a metaphorical academy? Like how we each have a squirrel inside of us and the academy helps us? I don't know. That phrase, if anyone ever edits another conspiracy iceberg image, please put Paul Squirrel Academy on there. Because that is a lost conspiracy. But unfortunately, I exist in the timeline where Paul Squirrel Academy doesn't exist. But we are left with the food replicator. Now, the food replicator is exactly what it sounds like. Paul Adams. Is it Paul Adams or Paul Al? It's Paul Adams. I think I called him Paul Allen earlier, but it's Paul Adams. He has invented a food replicator, and it will cost you maybe $8 to build and just 20 years off your life. Just letting you know. Very, very simple. Here it is. Two tin cans. So any invention that starts off with 2 tin cans, you know is going to be gold. You know that is an amazing invention. That's above Shark Tank. That's like DARPA level technology. 2 tin cans. They have to, and you should write this down. You guys are going to want to do this. They have to be food-based cans. So they have to be cans that previously held food, and they have to be the same. So you can't get a can of Denison's chili and then a can of raviolis. You have to get 2 cans of Denison's chili. And then give the chili to me. I'll eat it. You then empty out the cans. You wash them down. Take off the wrapper. There you go. You have the first part of your science fiction device known as the food replicator. This is real, by the way. I should say that. He's been doing this for years, eating this food. Well, again, he might be dead now, but we'll get to that. 2 matching tin cans. Clean. Some circular magnets. You'll need those as well. 1 lead with 2 alligator clips. So you need a little wire, and then 2 little alligator clips. And 2 identical plastic or glass bottles. That's all you'll need to really start making this food. You're going to take the 2 tin cans, you clean them out. You're going to take the magnet. He spends a long time describing how magnets work, and I'm thinking, who is this for? 4th graders? Like, who doesn't know how magnets work? The reverse polarity of magnets, he goes on and on. Anyways, no duh, dude. You take the magnets, and you completely cover the bottom of 1 can with the magnets. So you take the can and you make sure that they're all facing the same way. Which obviously, but anyway, so you take the bottom of the can, you put the little circular magnets down, You cover as much of the surface area on one can with the magnets, and do the same thing to the other can. Then you use the alligator clips and you connect them via the wire, and now you're done with the food replicator. That's the actual device itself. Then you are going to take your bottles and you're going to fill them up full of water. But Paul is very, very specific. It can only be tap water. No other water will work for whatever reason. You can't use any other water but tap water. Fill it full of tap water. Fill both bottles full of tap water. So now you have two bottles, your source bottle and your replica bottle. In your source bottle, put food in it. I'm almost done. I'm sure this is probably boring, but in your source bottle, you put food in the water and you swish it around and put it under one tin can. And in the replica bottle, you don't do anything to it. You put it under the other tin cans. They have to be fairly small bottles of water. Wait 10 minutes and then drink out of the replica bottle. You have just drank the food from the first bottle, from the source bottle. And you're thinking, okay, Jason, this guy is this wacky invention. Ha ha, you told us some stupid instructions, and that's the end of the episode, right? That's kind of boring. No, because I wouldn't waste your time with that. It is funny to look at this recipe for this device, but it gets insane because so he makes this device back in 2004, and he has blog posts going for years. Now, this is where we start to see the insanity sink in. This is where we start to see that this guy invented this machine, but just the bizarre thoughts that got wrapped around this. In 2004, when he invented the machine, he was having some blood pressure problems. He was having some health issues. And he decided to invent this machine to help those health issues. He was a little overweight and his blood pressure was high. And I think it started initially that he was trying to lose weight, but you gotta eat something. His blog then goes, there's two levels of the blog. There's the interactions with himself and interactions with other people and the food replicator. The interactions with himself, every blog post, he lists his blood pressure, and you can actually watch it go up and down over the course of months. And his weight, he loses 20 pounds incredibly rapidly. And he wasn't a super big guy to begin with. He was like 195 in the beginning, and then he's down to 170. So he drops 20 pounds fairly quickly, which is fine. It's good to lose weight, but you need to eat stuff. He is getting most of his meals from the food replicator. And when I say when I first read this, I was like, oh, put food in a bottle of water? I was thinking, put like a piece of meat in there, and then it gets transmitted to other water. He's putting breakfast burritos in his food replicator. He's constantly talking about taking omelets and making an omelet and only eating a part of it and sticking the rest into a bottle of water and then drinking the replicated omelet. He's like, oh, I feel so good. I've eaten this omelet. And then the next blog post, his blood pressure's up. Like, it's just insane. It's totally nuts. And he's doing that. And then as the months go on, he starts being like, I woke up this morning and I'm not hungry, but I'm like kind of hungry. And I made toast with butter. And I ate it. It was the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. Because he's starving himself. And then there's this weird pattern emerges where he starts talking about how much he loves Panda Express. And he starts going to Panda Express and eating chow mein, and then he gets sick because he's eating a bunch of carbs and he's been starving himself through the food replicator, and he can't figure out what the problem is, so he drinks an omelet the next morning. It's absolutely bizarre, and the whole time he's watching his blood pressure go up. So again, this is I want to read off a couple of his sample blog posts here. This is February 10th, 2004, so this is very, very recent from him building the food replicator. I had the urge to exercise today. That's good. Exercise is good. I always think exercise is a good thing. So I've been bouncing on the mini trampoline. What? For a total of a couple of hours. So now I imagine this guy just burn, and is on a mini trampoline for hours. For hours. I have so much energy since I drank that burrito. This is so good. This is actually the same day, February 10th, all I had eaten of real food today by about 4 p.m. was half a cup of orange juice, apart from drinking water as usual. I'd had a few squirts of yesterday's burrito, and so on, so I didn't feel particularly hungry, but the idea of some toast and cheese was appealing. So again, like, he's constantly, like, talking about eating other food. It's not working, but he swears by it. And also, the phrase, a few squirts of yesterday's burrito, is not appetizing in the least. That's what I say after I've gone to Taco Bell and I'm headed to the bathroom. I gotta drop off a couple squirts of yesterday's burrito. That's disgusting. So anyways, but he loves eating squirted burrito. So, and he then decides to share his miracle invention with the world. He puts the invention online, but he's like, no, it's not good enough. He starts trying to get his friends to take squirts of water into their mouth. So, he has one buddy who's pretty game to it, and Paul starts giving him squirts of coffee. So it's just regular water that's been infused with coffee, and his buddy's like, oh yeah, fine. Probably, don't shoot me, don't kill me at work, please. Please, Paul, I'm on your side. And then there women pop up every once in a while in his blog post. There's this woman, a friend of his he's hanging out with, and he's like, here, take some of this water. Which, I mean, ma'am, you have terrible common sense. If a man goes, here, take a squirt of this enhanced water, and you do it. She takes the squirt, and he's like, I wonder if she'll taste the omelet in the water. And anyway, she comes home from work, and he's like, did you notice anything from the water? And she's like, well, not really, but I did crave an omelet later. And he's like, success! Maybe I put the idea of cheese in her head. This is totally real, by the way. And then he finally tells her what his invention was. He goes, you know, that water I gave you was actually replicated omelet in a bottle of water. And he goes through the process, because he didn't tell her at first. He just said, here, have some enhanced water. So he tells her what it was. And then later on that night, he goes, would you like some more? And she's like, no, I don't. And even he's like, I think I creeped her out. I think I scared her from my invention. But, so he's now trying to share it with other people. But then we talk, now he's a true scientist because he starts experimenting on himself. He has this weird post on February 15th where he talks about his pornography and masturbation addiction. And he's going on about how it's, okay, so this is the year 2004. He's like, I have this huge collection of pornography and I masturbate all the time and I don't know what to do. And then he goes, sometimes I just want to delete my collection, but then I think, no, I can't. He goes, I have all these pictures, and I'm thinking, pictures? Pictures? How old is your computer? I get like 2004 wasn't the highest level of internet, but who has pornographic photos? Like, did people still have those back then? Am I that, like, removed? Like, it was video. We had videos then, right? When was the last time someone looked at a pornographic photo on just a photo on their computer? So anyways, he has this huge collection of pornographic photos. What do you... Photos. Anyways, I can't make photos on his computer. And he's a chronic masturbator. So, as a scientist would do, he thinks, I bet you the food replicator can solve this. And he talks about a phrase he once heard. Says, if you're having a problem with something, you don't have enough of it yet. He doesn't source who said this quote. And it sounds like a terrible, terrible quote. Because basically, if someone has a heroin problem, you could say, well, technically you don't have a heroin problem. You have a problem with not having enough heroin. And be like, oh, yeah, you're right. That is my problem. He repeats this phrase multiple times throughout his website. If you're having a problem with something, you don't have enough of it yet, which is quite bizarre. I could see that applying to, like, money and love, but anything else, masturbation, so he's thinking... maybe it has something to do with my semen. Like, I'm releasing all... this is so gross because now this guy is in his late 60s, early 70s, and he's basically just jacking off all the time. His mini trampoline is super slippery. And he goes, I am jacking off all the time, but maybe I need more semen. Because I have a problem releasing semen. So he jacks off into a bottle of water and puts it in the food replicator. and drinks the replicated semen water. Now,